Welcome to the Soul Tribe Podcast. The Soul Tribe Podcast was created to help you navigate through the world of spirituality, wellness, and self-development in an easy, grounded, and relatable way. We break down everything from the Akashic Records, manifesting, spirituality, and so much more. We want to help expand your boundaries and bring the spiritual world to you in a fun and easy way. Get ready to be inspired with tips, tools, and easy to digest information. Let's do this.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Tribe Podcast. Lauren and I are back together again.
Hello.
Back with the magic.
Back with the good times.
So today's episode, we're going to talk in general about soul contracts. And this is something we've talked about before, but we're going to project it towards another aspect because this question came up and we thought it was an important thing to talk about.
Yeah, so the question that came through a message on Instagram. I'm not going to name names because I don't necessarily think people want to be called out here, or unless they want to shout out, then let us know. We can shout you out.
Yes, definitely.
Episode.
If not, we won't say anything.
No, it's cool because she sends me quite a few questions and then I can answer. Like, that's why I would say contact us, like reach out to us. We love, like, this also brings forward ideas for the podcast, right? So her question was, what are your thoughts about contract clearing healing? And she says some healers claim that they can break the contracts.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. So I guess let's start with the fact that we did a whole course about contracts. Soul contracts
course, yeah.
Inside the Akashic Records. We did that on Udemy, right? So this was a while back. And if you are one of those people that enrolled in it and learned from it, you'll understand that something that people get really, really upset about is if you don't accomplish something in this lifetime, you're going to eventually have to come back to get that done. And a lot of people get upset when they find out that each time you have to repeat that lesson, it's actually harder. And people always go, why? Why is it harder? I don't know why it's the cosmic rule. All I just know is that it's a thing.
It's a thing. Yeah, it is a thing. And sometimes it comes back in a different way.
A harder way.
A harder way, but a different way. So the dynamic's not the same. So sometimes it goes deeper so that we can really just actually heal it. So we have no choice than to confront it.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to think if I can think of a somewhat general example of that. Let's say that this is just an example. I'm not thinking of myself or anybody. This is the only thing I can think of right now. So let's say that you're here to learn to love, right? And so you've been put in a scenario with a family and you just took them for granted. Maybe the first lifetime where you're here to love, learn to love, you were placed in a nice, loving environment, but something happened in your life at some point, or you just got triggered or traumatized and you started treating people around you with hate and anxiety and, I don't know, remorse and whatever words I can think of that are low vibrational, right? And you didn't really nail the loving part, right? So then soul's like, all right, that's okay. I tried. I'm going to go back and do it again. And so the soul then comes back, another body, another lifetime, but this time my family's not so nice to me, right?
Yeah.
And so now it's even harder to get there. I have to learn to love everyone, even when from a young age I was treated very unlovingly. And the soul didn't manage. Maybe the soul stayed in that traumatic, sad, complicated scenario. And the soul said, all right, well, now I got to go back and try this again. I'm obviously not getting this. And then it comes back and it's an orphan. Doesn't even have family this time. It's orphaned. It's left to just kind of fend for itself, and ends up having 5 different foster homes. And I feel unwanted now, undesired. No one cares for me. And now I can't even figure out how to love myself, let alone others around me. So that's a good example of just a very general idea of how something could play out like that. Like how I have a lesson and okay, I didn't get it. Or let's go back. Okay, I didn't get it. Okay, let's go back. It's like I would I would personally, this is why I always tell people, like, if you can check everything off your list in this lifetime, your soul's going to thank itself. You're going to be like, oh, thank goodness, I don't have to do this the next one around.
Yeah. I feel also like the soul contracts, it's like they stack stuff. It's like, well, now that you're in this situation with this family that's not showing you love, we might as well learn these other lessons here too. Yeah. Like that's the way they're showing it to me. And I see that time and time again when I open the records. So that's where I feel like when we don't learn these lessons, when we have because we're given those opportunities, we're put in those situations to learn that. And it never feels easy. It could be a little hard or it could be really hard. It could be really tough. But in essence, the soul only sees this energy as a lesson to learn.
To expand.
And this is why when we incarnate, obviously we've talked about this many times on the podcast of like, it's hard for us with our human brain and our ego to look at that as a lesson. We're just looking at it as like, oh my gosh, this keeps happening. Oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong? I'm not worthy of being happy. I'm not worthy of being loved. And then we get into that victim role and then the lessons aren't learned.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's a good example of like when you'll have people like you and I do readings for people, right? And you'll have this person that like, dude, you have like barely any karma. Like you have like 2 things to check off your list and you're good to go. And they're like, oh yeah, I've always felt kind of light about it all. I kind of like you can see that they've kind of like glided through life a little bit because they talk to you about it. And they're like, yeah, I just feel like I just want to know my purpose, my mission. Like they're not coming with this like complicated, dense, I need to figure all this out or clear this out. Then you have the person that's like, there's just so many things toppled up on top of each other. They're like, wow, where do we start? Like, okay, obviously the Akashic Records assist us in breaking it down and things like that. But that's a good example between that soul probably did a lot of really good work in other lifetimes. And maybe they have 1 or 2 things to check off, you know, and then they just come here to check those off. And then like the rest of it could be much more lighter. Whereas one of those other individuals who comes with a lot of lessons pending that are maybe heavier or more difficult, then it's probably because they have accumulated previous and they're trying to get it, you know, sifted out and cleared out. And so I guess that leads us to answer our question. Now that we understand what happens with a lesson when it's not, because what is a contract? A contract is an agreement, a soul agreement. Your soul basically signed to this contract. And it was looked over supposedly by your spiritual team and masters and yourself, and everyone agreed that this is the best for you and this is the way we should proceed, right? Sometimes it's just the soul that decides it, by the way. And then the soul signs it, and that's it. The life is planned based on that. It said, okay, this is the body is going to best help you accomplish that. This is the family is going to best help you accomplish that. This is all those tidbits and plans and things, the personality and all these things, right? So the soul signed it. The soul signed up for that. So here we are, ego-based, down here on the ground, going, why me? Like you just said, like the victim role, right? Why me? Why me? And then you find out that you could possibly break this contract, right? And the first thing I would say is that's a lot of ego. Because your soul probably doesn't want that. And if the person that's coming after, that's going to be the incarnation of your soul, is going to have a lot of extra stuff to do. Break it or not break it. You're breaking it if you break it, you're breaking it for this lifetime. Yeah. So if, for example, me, Lucia, breaks it, Lucia's breaking it and she doesn't have to accomplish those lessons anymore. And that means that the person that comes after me, let's say that my soul incarnates in the next lifetime in like 3,000 something as a girl named Amy. Well, good luck to Amy, because now Amy's got to get done the things that the soul previously planned to learn as Amy, but now she's got to grab all Lucia's junk as well. And that's the consciousness that's stuck in the scenario that is your soul having to do this thing, and now it's heavy. It's complicated.
It's complicated, yeah. Yeah. One thing I kept getting when you were talking about this just a few minutes ago, this is what I get in readings a lot, and they're showing it to me super clearly to explain it, I guess, in the best way that I can. Sometimes when you're talking about, some people come to a reading, for example, and the only context we have is readings. So people come and they ask questions and we are able to connect to their information. So we see it very clearly. We feel it. We visualize it. So I don't know that in the context of a friend or somebody else that I haven't opened their records. It's a little bit harder to understand what they're going through. But when someone goes through a reading, they want to understand, why is this repeating? Why is this happening to me? How can I get out of this loop? How can I start to love myself more? How can I fix these relationships with these loved ones that aren't working? Why do I feel excluded? Why do I feel like, it could be tons of stuff that come up. And when you start looking in the records, like when you open their records, a lot of times, many times, this isn't always, but what I get many times is like, they keep showing me that the how do I explain it? They keep showing me this sense of like a lot of past lives connected to that issue. And the way it's like I explained it as like a stacked energy, right? And it feels like one stacked on top of the other. So it feels heavy, and then you're carrying that with you. So it's literally clearing that out for all of those past lives. And then that complicates things. Why? Because what they're explaining to me, and this is how I see it also when I do readings, of like, the person will be like, yeah, because this is a problem in my life here, in this incarnation. Like, yeah, but in the past life, it was associated to this. So this explains why you're also feeling these other things and other aspects of your life. So everything becomes intertwined, heavier. It feels more difficult to work through the layers. It doesn't mean it's impossible, because we're here to work through that. We're here to learn those lessons. But it's like everything, they kind of show it to me like this spider web, everything interconnected. And then all of a sudden you can't escape. It's like you fix one thing, but then the other thing pops up and then you have to work through that. And it's like layers, layers, layers. And those are the kind of people that I always feel come to a reading say, I've already done the healing. Why is it still coming up? And they get really frustrated, because there's a lot you're carrying from past lives and stuff that your soul just wasn't ready or didn't. The free will is such a big part. Like we always talk about that. The free will of your soul in those past lives was, they didn't want to face that. They didn't want to learn that.
Yeah. So I don't think I have anything to add to that. Everything you said there. Yeah. It makes sense. We always talk about the onion, the Akashic Records always talk about the onion layer. Like, it's like, once you clear one thing out, then there's another one, you clear that out, and there's another thing to deal with. And that's what we're here to do. It's not easy. And I can tell you, we're humans too. It's not easy at all. And we're also going through our own lessons and things. But I want to put some light to it, like some really interesting light to it. Well, I have some stuff I want to say that's kind of more on the like low vibrational side. But first I want to put some light to it. For example, I'm currently doing the Angelic Healing Program. And the first step in the first session, or the first program of that, is releasing karma. So we're releasing stuff that no longer suit us, programs we no longer carry, and things like that. So that is a possible healthier way to deal with it. You're not ripping the contract. You're releasing aspects that you said, I learned from this, I'm done with this, I understand that it was here, I'm not looking away from it, I'm going, yes, this was here and I'm letting go. But also we're now coming up to our second session for this weekend. We're preparing for it, and that one is Dharma activation. And so we actually are going into the fifth dimension. We've talked about this so many times on the podcast. The fifth dimension doesn't have that contract anymore. You're relieved from the contract, and you only live from a place of Dharma, which is why you'll hear people say fifth dimension doesn't have free will. It's not in a bad way. It's because you just live in your full-blown purpose and mission as a being. You're just connected to what you're here to do and how you're here to do it. And so there is no free will in that sense. You just live in pure and utter mission purpose. And you're taken care of. There's no more lacking in that. The word lack doesn't exist in the fifth dimension in a sense for us as like, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough abundance, I don't have enough free time, I don't have enough time for me, I don't have enough time I don't have health, right? I lack health. Like, all these things don't exist in the fifth dimension. So what we're doing with the angelic program is we're releasing the karma to create a higher vibration, so that heaviness that was keeping us down, to raise our vibration. And now we're going through the process of activating our Dharma. So we're bringing up our fifth dimensional abilities and connecting to the fifth dimension a bit more, and the things we're writing down what we want to bring in. And one of the rules was, you have to write down what you really want. Not, I want this job because it's gonna get me money. It's, what do you really want? I want this. This is what your job would be your purpose. I want to do this. And then the universe should be giving you abundance for you're doing the things that you're here to do. And so that's a way for us in a really positive way to look at how we can get out of complicated scenarios. Walk yourself into that fifth dimensional energy. Don't break the contract, because you can escape it via raising your vibration. Mm-hmm. And then you don't have to come back, because if somebody breaks their contract, this is Lucia's opinion, this is my perspective. I know maybe there's people listening who maybe that's what they do and that's their work, and I respect that. And maybe your perspective is different than mine. I only know what I understand from what I've gotten from the Akashic Records. So I'm speaking from my own personal.
Correct, yeah. The same here for me.
Yeah. And so I think that what I understand from what I've seen from the Akashic Records is if you go and you rip that contract, let's say that we ripped it not in a negative way, because I'm going to talk about negative ways to break it. Let's say that you just ripped it because you went to someone that helped you break it, or you figured out a way to do it yourself and you've broken it. You've tried to break that contract, right? You're going to have to reincarnate to do that again. Now, since Earth is going to fifth dimension, and now you're stuck with all these lessons from third dimension, now you just stopped yourself from going to fifth. And now you're going to have to go to another planet, whether that's a parallel Earth, or that's another planet that's prepared to take in four-dimensional humanoid species. Then you're going to be going kind of that, and you're going to pick up that contract. So you're not actually escaping. Even if Earth are going fifth dimension, you're not escaping. You'll be placed in the perfect place and pick up exactly where you left off. Mm-hmm. So then why not do it the smart way?
Yeah.
And do it by vibration so that you get out of all this heaviness and you clear yourself, and now you're in fifth dimension. You're never going back to fourth again.
And I think the important question and thing to contemplate, each and every one of us, like, why are we trying to escape that? And we all try to escape in different ways, right? Maybe goes beyond soul contracts. Soul contracts may be involved within that thing that we're trying to escape, of course, but it's, what are we trying to get away from? Or is it we're running away from the emotions, we're running away from the fear, we're running away from the challenge, the lesson? Your soul thrives off of learning those lessons. That's why it's here. And I know, because I can only speak for myself here, from my own experiences and how I live life. It's really hard for me to get out of my comfort zone, and I get stuck in situations and I repeat them a lot. That's something that I work through with therapy, with my own healing, with my own journaling, with my own work. So I have so much sympathy and empathy for anybody going through something that feels really hard right now. And obviously I don't know what you're going through, but whatever it is you're going through, ask yourself, why am I trying to run away from this? And if it's hard, are there people or things that can support me to get through this so that I can actually really sit with this and learn those lessons? And I know people are in, life has not been easy in the last few years. We always say that. And we're all here to support each other. So you're not alone. I always like to make sure, I get so many emails and messages from people saying they feel alone. You're not alone. I think that loneliness, that feeling like there's nobody there to help you, can also make you want to just break something, right? It's like, I'll break this and it's over and I don't have to suffer anymore. And suffering is optional. We don't have to go through things with suffering. We can go through it with awareness and kindness. And really, like I always say, with curiosity, like, why is this happening to me? And why am I attracting this in my life? It's not why does this thing keep repeating? I'm not worthy. There's something there. It's trying to tell me something. Things don't happen just because they happen. They always happen for a reason. And they're always there to tell us something. But we have to be open to seeing that. And running away is never going to solve anything in our life. Ever. We have to confront things. We have to do things with awareness and consciousness. That's how we heal. Yeah.
I think it's important to talk about this aspect of it, because I know that there's probably some people have heard this before. Have you ever heard the theory that like the system traps you here and you get stuck and you can't get out? Well, there is a validity. What's it?
A validity.
Validity. There's a validity to that. Sorry, guys. There's a validity to that, if you ask me from my perspective. And if you've been on the Patreon, you would have heard me talk about like Earth being in quarantine. And I'm talking about COVID. I'm talking about quarantine. Like this was it was placed somewhere on Earth a very, very long time ago. The quarantine was lifted in 2016 from Earth. So what happened was there was a lot of, every planet and every solar system every planet in specific has ability to have a percentage of negativity or yin and yang to it, right? And so that's where our lessons come in, because duality exists for us, right? And so that's where the lessons come in. So then Source said, I'm going to permit there to be this X amount of percentage, which passed 50%. I don't remember how much it was. It was like 50, I don't know, it was 58. I can't remember now. But it's like past 50% was permitted for a negativity rate or duality rate, right? And Earth surpassed it. And so at some point, because of these controlling other low vibrational negative beings that came in that are extraterrestrials and whatever, I'm not here to get into like that whole like theory and projection, but to understand what Source did was, because I wanted people to understand that it wasn't mean. It wasn't, you guys are all trapped and you're never leaving. Like that's why I'm trying to explain it. So what happened was basically Source was, I guess, looked at the situation, because I don't know how to place it in words when you talk about Source, but looked at the situation and said, oh, okay, well, how do we stop them from coming in and keep continuing to manipulate the negativity on Earth and negatively affect humans? And so the idea was, we're going to put a shield so nothing can get in and nothing can get out. So we, as souls who were incarnated here, most of us since Lemuria, Atlantia, Egypt, all these things, right? We were going through our cycles of lessons. And what might have been like an easier way, like, oh, we got it, okay, we're out. Now it became more complicated, because what happened was, there was like the situation, because it gets a bit more complicated to explain, but let's just say the thing was there, it was manipulated by other beings after Source had placed it around, and no one was aware of it. And so this negative placement and negative, I don't know, changing of algorithms, I don't know what to call it either, but basically it put a cumulative component to karma. So then our soul, you would come into a lifetime and you would maybe check off 2 amazing, really good lessons and missions. Oh, I learned to love and I learned to be giving, for example, right? Awesome, check. Oh, but I also did this during this lifetime. Oh, no, now I need to learn the other side of the coin. Oh, and I also did this. And so it was like, it became a catch-up game where so much accumulated. In every lifetime, you took off things, but you added more things sometimes than you managed to take off. And this was because it had been manipulated with. It wasn't made for us to be in this way. And so you talk about questions. You can imagine that the questions you get are much more like light. The questions I get email-wise is like, I've heard about this entrapment system, and how do you get out? And they say that a negative false master will be waiting for you and telling you to come back, and what should I do when I die, right? Like all these things. And so my response to that today, with what I know about the fifth dimension coming in, is if you get yourself to fifth dimension, that's not going to happen, number one. Number two, the quarantine's been lifted, so that's no longer happening either anyways. But if you get yourself to the fifth dimension, you no longer have to deal with this karma and these lessons backtracked, accumulated. But that's basically what happened. So that's the perspective of why everybody really believes that we're trapped here, we can't get out, and when you die, it's just a cycle where you're going to be pushed back into the system and you'll never be able to get out. That's not true, but it did happen. And that's why it happened. And it wasn't because Source wanted to enslave you. It wasn't because Source didn't care, and all those things that maybe some people... I get emails, people like get worried about and upset about. And so me as Lucia, you guys know that I love going down those rabbit holes, and I'm going to be the first one to be like, oh no. Mm-hmm. But I really, really studied it and I looked into it. And I in my heart, I totally believe that we're out of that danger. If you talked to me 100 years ago, 50 years ago, like the other version of myself or whatever, like I would have said, yeah, we might get stuck. We're going to get stuck. But now from what I've understood is, the fifth dimensional thing that's coming into play and the quarantine that had been lifted in 2016 now permits us to get out. So this is the perfect time to finish your dirty work, because we're getting out anyways.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
So and then I wanted to talk about ways that people break it that might not be aware that they're breaking it.
Because you said before, like, you could just break it yourself, like find a way to break it, but then there's negative ways to break it that might not be. Is that what you're talking about now? Yeah.
So these 2 negative, low vibrational ways to break it. I'm going to explain to each of them why I wouldn't go down that rabbit hole. But okay. So the first one is And what the Akashic Records call this is self-sabotage, or leaving on your own hands. So it's suicide, basically, right? So you've decided that you've gotten to your emotional limit, you've gotten to the limitation of life, and you decided you can't do this anymore. There's no one in this world that has in their contract suicide. There's no one. Suicide is never a plan for any being whatsoever. It's never an experience a soul will ever sign up for. I've said this before in the podcast. And it's a very delicate, scenario, because most of us know someone, or know someone that knows someone, or, it's very emotional to hear that person could still be here. And so my heart goes out to those people, of course. But it's important to understand, because I want each of us to take responsibility for ourselves and love ourselves and take care of ourselves, and know that that's never the plan. That's never the plan to take yourself out of this equation, to disincarnate yourself. And so in that scenario, from what I understand, the first thing that happens is a lot of healing has to happen for the soul when it leaves. It will leave to the other dimensions, and if it does a good job, maybe it could come back in a few decades. Maybe. I don't think it's very quick, because I think a lot of souls some might take 100 years, some might take 20 years, 30 years to be completely healed and ready to come back to incarnate again, right? So it's a whole process for the soul doing that. It's not just you came out of it, now you got to heal from the trauma of having lived through that heaviness, and it's difficult. But when you do that, if you do that, you've just broken the contract. That's because you didn't take an exit point that you agreed upon, which is I'm going to leave when I'm this, and I'm going to just die of natural causes, or I'm going to leave when I'm this, and this is how I'm going to die because I want to learn through that, or whatever it is the soul signed up for. You didn't end up taking one of those exit points. You created your own exit that wasn't agreed upon. And so you're going to have to come back. And just like the other scenarios we were talking about, the lesson's not going to be easy next time, because it's added on, just like we were just talking about in the beginning, right?
Yeah, it just starts stacking. And I think the way they're kind of showing it to me visually, I totally agree with what you said before, that you'll disengage from that lesson or that contract for this life. But you cannot detach that from the soul. You can't. You just can't. It's going to still be attached to the soul. You're going to have to learn it at some point. And, I often get, and I want to know what your take is on this, because I think it's really interesting. Sometimes I'll get a soul that has tons of stuff that's accumulated from past lives, but then they skipped lives and then they came back, and it's even heavier. Because they had to do something in between, and they come back and it feels like bam. It's like this heavy weight on the person that feels really hard. So it doesn't have to happen right away. It could happen a couple lifetimes after even. So that's the tricky part, because I'll see it past lives accumulated hundreds of years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not picking up from the last one only. Sometimes they'll be oh, well, I'm now going to play the role of Lucia, and Lucia's going to pick up from this lifetime that happened in the 1300s, for example. And I had maybe 5 or 6 after that one. Just throw numbers out, right? So you don't, you're not just, I don't know it's not snowballing. It's pick and choose which ones you're picking up on.
Yeah, but even like you were saying, it's like you're not honoring, with your free will, you're not honoring that your soul literally is here to do something.
And knows better. And that your soul knows better.
Yeah. The thing is, you always mention, I don't remember how you explain it, or you say it in your own words that I always find really cool, that we don't remember, the veil, right? We don't remember what has happened in the past, in our past lives, what our soul's been through. So it's hard for us to have that perspective. That's why I think an Akashic record reading or some kind of spiritual reading can sometimes help us get that perspective, so we understand it, and we don't have to feel like we have to run away from it. We can face it, and it's okay. And our souls agreed to it.
Yeah. I have actually an example to talk about that. How honoring, because you said it's you're not honoring what your soul chose, and how important it is to honor. And I'm going to give an example of how someone living a really difficult scenario might want to get out of that, but then they figured out the solution and they finished the cycle. And so I'm not going to name any names, but this is someone who openly talks about this. This person has talked about this to large groups of people about the scenario, but this individual had been abused by her father. And then she also, being a reader, got a reading for their sister. I don't know if it was with herself. I don't know if someone else gave her the reading. I'm not sure. But all I know is she got a reading and understood that her soul had done that. Okay, I'm trying to find the word. I don't know. So the father has a soul named number one. Soul number one and soul number two. She's soul number two. So soul number one abused soul number two in this lifetime, right? But when she got a reading, she found out before that soul number two had abused soul number one. Mm-hmm. But then before that, soul number one had abused soul number two. So there's like, it was his turn, then it was her turn, and then it was his turn, right? And so in this lifetime, her being soul number two, being abused by soul number one, and it was just her, the second time she was living it, because they had switched places again. And so the whole idea was the soul says, let's keep coming back till one of us stops the cycle. So one of them was supposed to stop, and as soon as one of them stopped and didn't do it in the lifetime, it was done. They wouldn't have to keep repeating it. And so then this individual has their grandchild. The grandchild's born, a boy. Mm-hmm. And the grandchild didn't ever meet soul number one in that lifetime, because this woman who's her grandchild just born never met the great grandfather. But there was one day they were cleaning the house, and there was pictures found. And the pictures they found a picture of her grandfather, aka the grandchild's great grandfather, and it came up, and the little boy was disgusted by that little man, the man. Disgusted. Who is he? I don't like he. He's mean, and da-da-da-da. She ends up finding out that that's the reincarnation of the great-grandfather, and they're still trying to make sure the cycle's broken. And so what she learned was, in this lifetime, they're finally giving me opportunity to not do anything for my side. I received it. I'm not going to do anything with that. It stops with me, and my grandchild, who is the reincarnation of that being, who has been in this back and forth with me, now can just grow up in a normal, healthy way. I'm not going to do any abusing, and we cut the cycle, and it's done. So imagine if she got really upset and said, why did my father do this to me? I don't understand this. I'm so angry. And maybe she decided, I'm going to cut my contract, or I'm going to take myself, I'm going to take myself out of this equation. I'm just going to leave because I can't deal with this anymore. She would have never gotten the opportunity for that grandchild to be born and to finally stop the cycle.
Yeah.
And then she would have gone through another lifetime, and it probably would have happened in that other lifetime.
But that was probably part of her contract, though, to break that cycle.
Yes, but it was also the time before, and the time before, and the time before. It started at some point, but it had gone on so many lifetimes that they couldn't even figure out when it began. This was a massive repeating thing between the two of them. And so in this lifetime, she got enlightened. She found the Akashic Records. She got her sacred information. She didn't go into victim role. She had it for probably a lot of years, but she grew from that. And she cut it. It was done with her. She said, it ends now with me. Now I know my grandchild is a reincarnation of, and I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen. Nothing happens to this little boy. And it's done. But
wow,
before she found enlightenment, she could have tried to get rid of that contract, and she would have had to come back a whole nother lifetime as somebody else, and they were going to be doing it who knows for how long more.
Mm-hmm. And that's literally how, we're looking for something external to us to break that, right? Like, let's say we want to go to a healer to break a contract with this thing that keeps happening in our life, then we're also disempowering ourselves, because first of all, we're gonna have to repeat it, but also that's basically saying that it doesn't mean that healer can't come in and help you. The healer can give you the information, the tool, but ultimately you're supposed to come to those realizations and feel that through your body and be able to make those choices yourself. That's free will.
Yeah.
It's important that we do that work.
Yep, exactly. And she
Not
did.
that we here, let me give you this and you do this for me, and then I don't have to think about it ever again. No, it doesn't work that way.
She did a good job, and
not in my point of view. And I think what you're saying is spot on. It feels very much like that. Like, I feel like some soul contracts, from what I feel also, it's like you're here to break that cycle, because otherwise this will repeat. And you're here to really bring your healing, your awareness, understand your family, understand everything that's come before you, and you are deciding it stops now because you have to heal it. And you heal it not only for yourself, because that's what I'm understanding more and more, and I try to explain to people, like, some people are like, oh no, because this person isn't changing. I was like, don't focus on the person that isn't changing. Focus on you and what you can change and what you can heal. That gives everybody else in your environment, and especially in your family system, the people immediately in your circle and your collective to also shift that energy. It is their free will to decide to shift or not, or to change
they might
or
decide not to, and you can't do anything about that. But at least you're not
But
going down
it
that
starts with us.
like road with them forever.
Yeah.
So that's one way of, we're talking about breaking the contract. So taking yourself out, right, of the equation and ending it from getting your own exit point, and then you're breaking it, but you're gonna have to go back and do it again. So you're not out forever. You're just, as the individual you are today, that's the person that got out. And that's the same thing if you like try to break it being here in a conscious way, or, or find a method to do it. If it works, you just, like Lucia broke it, but then my consciousness can come back and do it all over again. So yeah, maybe Lucia's free for a little bit, but that's about it. The other thing is your contract is with the higher dimensional realms. Like, these contracts are coming into play and being agreed upon beings that are trying to help your soul grow and expand. But there's a whole other set of beings we know that exist that choose not to go to the light, that choose to vibrate low and in the dark. And I don't like calling it Satan or the devil or whatever you want to call it, because I don't believe in that. I just believe in there's a bunch of souls that are deciding to live that scenario. And I don't really feel like there's just this one entity in charge of it all. But maybe I'm wrong. I just don't want to see it that way, I guess. It doesn't really matter, actually.
A little bit of denial, maybe.
Yeah. No, it's just that I learned the galactic history of what Lucifer really was. And it's a whole administrative mess. It's not even what we think it is, biblically.
Christos and Foster talk about that too, right?
Yeah, that's right.
They've talked about that tons of times on the podcast.
Yeah. But I do, that doesn't mean that I don't think that there's other beings that like are low vibrational that are choosing that still and staying there. And that's their free will to choose that, right? And so a way to break your current contract with the light being side is to do a contract with the darker side, if you want to call it the darker side. So, and then really, like, if you've ever heard celebrities that are famous or rich say, I sold my soul to the devil, they're not, I mean, maybe some of them just say as a joke, but some of them are not kidding. It's an actual thing that you can do where you can decide to get fame, fortune, beauty, blah, 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 whatever, all these things. You can get them, but what you're doing is when you pass away, yeah, maybe you really enjoy this lifetime. It's bam, you have a house in Monaco, you have a house in the Bahamas, you got an amazing house, I don't know, here and there, like, and maybe you really enjoy life and it's great, but when that individual that did supposedly make an agreement with that darker side, when they die, guess who gets to do whatever they want with your consciousness? Those beings. And now those beings now have the right to ask you to do all these things for them, and they're usually not great things, and it's a whole spiral that no one should have to go through and no one should agree upon. So it is kind of like the saying, selling your soul, if you ask me, because you owe them one.
Yeah. I do you a favor, you do me a favor.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You owe them one.
It's exactly that. Yeah, I don't get too much on that, but I definitely get this feeling that if we're trying to break something, one thing's saying I want to break these patterns and I'm going to do the work, and another thing's I don't want to do this work. I just want it to be over. It's like that can't end well. That can't end well. But I do agree with, this is where I think we have to see each scenario as it's like an isolated case, or like see things individually, because everybody's contracts are different. Everybody's like backstories are different. Everybody's past lives are different. Everybody's, there's so many differences. You can't generalize. We're speaking in general terms, right? But I do feel like there are cases that people can just break it because they've decided to break it. But that usually still comes with work. They're not just going to be like, I close my eyes, I say I break it, and it's done.
Well, that said, you can do new decrees, though. You can use your free will to make new decrees. So you're not saying, I get rid of this no longer. That's it. I'm not, whatever I signed, my soul signed up for, I'm done with. And like, I don't know how they do it, but I'm just, imagining that they do it that way. But what you can do is you have the right to make new decrees. So you're making new contracts with the universe.
Yeah? How does that work?
You just write it, like, it's like you write a contract up, you write it. The way that I do is like I write it and then I sign it. I know the name of my soul, so I sign it, and then I sign it as, like, I put my soul's name and I put my name, and I burn it, and I like, that's how I activate
It's not
it.
like reprogramming, kind of. Because then we talk a lot about reprogramming in like level 1 and level 2 when we teach it. Especially level 1.
No, I
own
wouldn't call it
healing?
reprogramming. This is just a contract that you're trying to activate. Like with the universe or with your spiritual team. You're just trying to activate it. And fifth dimensional energy means that you have the right to, as long as, I learned this today, one of the galactic rules is, because I was downloading one of the programs for the angelic healing, and one of the things that they made me write down was that we have the right to align in fifth dimension, and for Dharma, fifth dimension is Dharma, we can basically align with anything, but it cannot break the galactic rule that whatever you're trying to ask for, harness, whatever reality you're trying to bring in, it cannot harm or negatively affect any individual whatsoever, not one. So that goes with animals and people. And so that they were saying that as long as it doesn't affect anybody in a bad way or harm anybody, then you have the right, in Dharma, in fifth dimension, you have the right to align with that and ask for it.
Like, what would you ask for example?
Let's say that
But in regard to like a soul contract, right?
well, we're not doing soul
Like
contracts.
something that's difficult.
No, we're not doing soul contracts. We're trying to go to our heart center and activate what it is we feel. Because remember, there's no free will in Dharma. So the other thing they said was make sure that you're asking for what you really want.
Yeah.
So you're going to try to get what you really want, not what you think you want. Like, I want this house over here because I feel like this house is going to make me happy. Or I want this job over here because it's going to give me a lot of money. And then, no, you actually don't want that. You want what that house makes you feel, or you want what that job is going to get you, which is money. But maybe you can get a job in something, in your mission, your purpose, vibrating with what you really are passionate and love. And maybe the universe actually ends up giving you more because you're in fifth dimension and you went down the route of what you're purposely here to do, because you're living your mission. And there's no free will there, remember? So we have to live our mission and our purpose. So what you'd ask for, let's say it would be one of us, like, I want to be able to continue to speak the word of the Akashic Records and bring high vibrational empowerment to individuals of the world and be taken care of by whatever, I don't know. Like, it depends on each person, but that's an example. Like, you feel like that's your purpose. It's not just that you want that job because you want that.
Yeah, but maybe that's already part of your contract, but you don't know it.
Yeah, it might be. I didn't say it isn't.
You still decree it because it's like you're bringing that in.
It might be, it might not be. I don't know. It depends on the person.
Yeah.
Depends on the person. Or maybe, and sometimes contracts are general. Maybe it's not just Lucia's here to work with the Akashic Records, Lorena's here to work with the Akashic. Sometimes you're here to bring messages. Sometimes it's very general and it doesn't have to be that one tool.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
So, yeah.
Interesting. I don't feel like that could break a contract though.
It doesn't, that's what I'm saying. You're not breaking the contract. Because if you break the contract, you're in trouble. That's the whole point. It's a high vibrational way to raise your vibration, connect with your actual mission purpose, and then those other lessons don't have to be playing a role in the background anymore for you.
Especially if you have that free will to just shift, like you said.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's easy to get there, because you have to be willing to let go of, like, okay, I'm going to give a really stupid example. And this doesn't mean you can't go to like clubs or something. I'm just going to give a stupid example. Let's say that you're like, oh, I totally want to vibrate in a place of harmony and balance. I want to be connected with people that are enlightened and blah, 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 fairies and rainbows, whatever, like, right? Like all these great things and amazing high vibrational things.
Peace and love.
Yeah. And then like you totally wrote the decree, or, you tried to get into activate that Dharma program of yours and whatever. And then someone calls you the next day and is like, dude, listen, I got tickets to this rave over here and it's going to be amazing. And the old you would have loved that. But supposedly you just asked to become the new you, right? And then you go and then you're surrounded by people that are just, most of them are just not even fully there because maybe they're taking drugs. There's a lot of maybe like alcohol around you. That means there's lower vibrational density and entities around. And now you're not in the middle of that amazing energy that you just yesterday said that you wanted to do, right? And be part of. So now your actions speak contrary to the program or to the Dharma that you're trying to activate or the decree that you're trying to activate. So it's not just about I'm going to write it down or I'm going to burn the paper or it's about I represent this on a daily basis.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. That's a silly example, but yeah, you're right. It shows kind of the energy around what you're saying. Yeah.
So it's like your free will first said, no, I do really want this. And then your free will says, no, I want to keep living the third density experience. I'm not ready to let go of that. And the universe is not punishing you. It's saying, that's okay. That's what you chose. All right, there you go. Come back when you're ready to actually have this thing over there that you say you want. And I'll let you have that experience over there that you're choosing still. You're not ready. That's okay.
This is interesting. I just want to read what this person sent me because I said, look, do you have more specific, like a specific example of this question? Because I responded in my own way to her, and she says, I just found a healer who claims that soul contracts can be broken due to healing. This is the first step. And then other healings are done to clear it out, though. I don't know how she doesn't know the kind of healing that is. This person claims that after the soul contract starts breaking, then we can think and do from a place of love and free will, not due to the contract, as some people say our contract makes us do things or clouds our judgment.
Well, healing, releasing is just absorbing the knowledge and turning it into wisdom. So you're not breaking anything.
Yeah. So your free will's always there.
Yeah, and because you're not breaking it.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not saying that this person doesn't know what they're doing. I just think what we get from the Akashic Records is very different.
No, but the words that it was described in how that healing or session or whatever you want to call it works, it just sounds like they're just healing and it turns into wisdom, which is that's what the contract does. It turns experiences into wisdom. Wisdom goes into the soul, makes the soul more expansive, and okay, lesson's done. So basically, she's helping you just finish up and tie up the lesson into nice little bow. That's what it sounds like she's doing.
But that can be done in different ways, right? Like that could be done through an Akashic record reading, through family constellations, through just an intuitive session, or through therapy. Yeah.
So I wouldn't call it you're breaking the contract.
Breaking soul contract. No, I wouldn't either.
You're closing it. That's different.
That's not how I'm seeing it either. Not from the words.
No, the words. We're going off the words.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, yeah. So that's how we just would describe healing yourself, or like you said, closing. I think that's the best word, closing the contract. Closing it means I'm done.
Yeah.
I've learned the lesson and I can move on.
It's like
and
when you finish a chapter of a book.
Move on.
You go to the next chapter.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Aurora's new favorite word, by the way. Correct. She says that now a lot.
The other day, guys, I called Lou and I was playing with Aurora. We were playing like peekaboo on the video. It was so cute. And she was cracking up. I was so happy. Oh my gosh.
Well, the new favorite word that she, besides correct, because that was like last week, because every week it's a new word. This week it was the word prank. And she says, I want to prank you all day.
Where did she get that from?
Probably her cartoons or something, because I've never used the word prank that I can think of. So I mean, Sandra's a massive pranker, so he gets that from him, but the word, I'm going to prank you, like Sandra will never say he pranks you. He'll just bother you.
Yeah.
Right?
Just bug you.
Yeah, it just bug you. So it was funny because now she looks for ways, like I'll be doing the laundry upstairs in the attic and she'll come up and turn off light on me.
Oh my gosh. Hey, I pranked you.
She thinks it's hilarious.
Aww.
Yeah.
That's cute. Oh, Aurora. Anyway, okay, so I don't have anything else to say about this.
I don't. I think we've talked about it from many different perspectives. And nobody's the owner of the truth. We're not owners of the truth either. This is just what we seem to understand, and we feel a certain way about it that we would respect it. It's already hard the way it is. I don't want to add to the next lifetime to be harder. I want to just get to fifth and get out of this. Get out of this joint.
A lot of people come to readings and say that, like, I want to heal this. I don't want to keep repeating this. I'm done. I don't want to come back.
We're becoming a bit smarter about it.
Yeah, people are waking up.
Yeah, people change their questions. Amazing. Now it's what can I do so this doesn't have to keep repeating? So we're getting much smarter with our questions.
Or is there anything else I haven't learned from this lesson that I think I fully healed or I fully acknowledged?
Yeah.
Those are great questions.
Yeah.
Great questions. All right. So we're going to close off here. I don't know if there's anything I want to mention. Obviously, Lucy's doing her angelic healing, so make sure you check that out. I'll have that link on the show notes.
But
And
for now, we
then
already
it is-
started it, so
Yeah.
it's been going really well. It's super cool, the program. So I'm not going to repeat it again this year, but I probably will repeat it again next year because everyone, I'm including myself, we're all loving it. It's a lot of homework.
amazing.
It's a lot of doing things on your own. And then, yeah, it's a lot of guidance from the angels and steps and a lot of ritual, which we're loving. So,
Yeah. Our Telegram group's kind of like, I've read on and off a few comments and stuff. I'm like, wow, I wonder what they're doing.
Yeah.
I've been too busy to participate, but I'll definitely do the angelic healing and the Patreon. You do your monthly thing there. So I'll definitely sign up to that in the next one. And then obviously we've mentioned before, like we're going to take a little bit of a break for the end of the year. So part of December and January. So we won't be posting during that time. We'll make sure we post that on our Instagram or Facebook. We'll let you guys know exactly what dates we'll be off before we start season 5. Our season is a year. We don't do like actual seasons. You know, there's 4 seasons a year. A season is like just the year 5, year 4, year 3. So they're really long years, and we always kind of look forward to a little bit of a break, even if it's a couple of weeks at the end of the year. And it kind of helps us reset and then figure out what direction we're going with the podcast. You know, this year we did a lot more focusing on our messages and what we are learning and how to share that with you. Whereas other years we had a lot of people on, right? We did a lot of interviews, and I'm not sure we're going to go next year with it, but yeah, we'll be here with you. We'll be on this journey with you. You know, we really appreciate all your support, and we love you all so much.
Yeah, and remember that we have the Patreon where there's extra episodes, so you can go on there. If you're gonna miss us, you can just go there and you have all the content backtracked from all the previous months that were there, so you can catch up with everything and get up to date with that as well, and be part of the community, which is the majority reason for it.
Of course, yeah. All those links will be in the show notes, so make sure you check those out, including all of our social media, our website, our contact forms, all that. And yeah, we'll sign off here, and we'll see you in the next episode, which I think might be the last one. I have to check the dates, but we'll see. And yeah, we hope you guys have a good week. Sending you lots of love and light, and we'll see you next week.
Bye guys. Thank you.